Hello, comrades, and welcome to another video on the Chinese Revolution Area of Study 2. This is the last video that I will do on the Cultural Revolution, and it's just going over the chronology of the Cultural Revolution. So I'll present a sort of timeline of the lead up to and the entirety of the Cultural Revolution up to 1976. So let's get into it. So starting with the lead up to the Cultural Revolution, now you could start this way further back, considering some of the long-term causes of the Cultural Revolution. But I've decided to start it at the launch of the socialist education movement. So from the 24th to the 27th of September 1962, the 10th Party Plenum endorses the socialist education movement to try and stamp out corruption in among CCP cadres, as well as to increase the prevalence of socialist sentiment among society after the Great Leap Forward and the famine. In February 1963, CCP leadership gathers to define the instructions for carrying out the socialist education movement. Mao drafts the first directive titled the Early 10 Points, and this is passed by the conference. This gives peasant associations power to oversee work on the 4 cleanups. So trying again to stamp out corruption in 4 areas among CCP cadres. On the 5th of March 1963, Lei Feng's diary is first presented to the public by Lin Biao, starting the Learn from Lei Feng campaign. So this is when Lin Biao really starts building the Mao's cult of personality. In September 1963, Deng Xiaoping updates the Socialist Education Movement Directive, bringing in the later 10 points, which takes power away from these peasant associations and puts power into the hands of work teams of loyal CCP authorities. On the 1st of February 1964, the People's Daily announces Mao's directive to learn from the PLA. So here is another emulation campaign in which Mao encourages people to emulate and learn from the People's Liberation Army. In May 1964, Lin Biao compiles a book of Mao's famous writings, the Little Red Book. This is initially, in Lin Biao's role as defense minister, and initially distributed among every soldier in the army, and later it's distributed among really everyone in society. September 1964, Liu Shaoqi updates the Socialist Education Movement Directive. This is called the revised later 10 points. So the power is still in the hands of these work teams like Deng Xiaoping's initiative brought in. However, it gives them more power to stamp out corruption among CCP cadres in the provinces. In January 1965, the Politburo sets up a 5-man group led by Peng Zhen to review anti-socialist attitudes in fields like history, philosophy, literature, law, and dramatics, or drama. This was brought about as a result of the play by Wu Han titled "Hai Rui Dismissed from Office," which was performed back in 1961, and people saw the similarities between that and Mao's dismissal of Peng Dehuai, or the purging of Peng Dehuai. That was seen as a reactionary or revisionist sort of dramatization of Mao as a sort of corrupt leader, and so that's why the 5-man group was set up to investigate Wu Han, the creator of Hai Rui Dismissed from Office, as well as to review anti-socialist attitudes in other fields. And then on the 12th of February 1966, the five-man group released the February Outline Report. Now, they'd been under a lot of pressure to release this report, and finally they did, acknowledging the presence of bourgeois sentiments in culture, but this doesn't satisfy Mao. And that's sort of the lead up to the Cultural Revolution. From now on, we're into the Cultural Revolution, starting with the launch of the Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution, which is the May 16th Circular. So on the 16th of May, 1966, the CCP issues the May 16th Circular, announcing the start of the Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution. Now, this was issued, it was drafted by Mao, but it was issued while Mao was at his summer retreat. So Mao was sort of taking a break out of the limelight of politics. And so that's when this was announced, sort of announcing the start of the Cultural Revolution. On the 25th of May, 1966, a big character poster, or Dazibao, is put up at Beijing University, denouncing school leaders and asking, what are you up to in the Cultural Revolution? Dazibao is soon seen at other universities and secondary schools, with Red Guards spurning classes to join the revolution. And remember, at Beijing University alone, there were up to 65,000 Dazibao pasted around the campus, encouraging people to join the Cultural Revolution, particularly students. On the 16th of July, 1966, Mao ends his period of solitude with his good swim in the Yangtze River. This is sort of a propaganda, a swim to show, sorry, I'm forgetting my words. It's a swim to show how physically fit Mao is and how ready he is to take on leadership. On the 1st of August 1966, Mao Zedong supports the Red Guards in a speech to the 11th plenum of the 8th CCP Congress. So after the May 16th Circular, and particularly after the appearance of the Dazibao at Beijing University, Red Guards start acting against their teachers in universities, against intellectuals, against anything that they see as revisionist or bourgeois in nature. And so it was by mid-July getting quite violent, and yet on the 1st of August, Mao gave his full support to the Red Guards. On the 5th of August 1966, Mao writes his own Dazibao headlined "Bombard the Headquarters." This is a clear attack on President Liu Shaoqi and corrupt cadres, so it sort of marks the beginning of spreading the Cultural Revolution from intellectuals to CCP cadres and leaders. On the 8th of August 1966, the party plenum ends. It began on the 1st of August, and it ends with a 16-point document on the guidelines, nature, and goals of the Cultural Revolution. On the 18th of August 1966, so a lot happens in August. This is the first of 8 Red Guard mass rallies in Tiananmen Square. Lin Biao and Mao both urge Red Guards to destroy the Four Olds, which begins the Destroy the Four Olds mass campaign. On the 15th of September 1966, Lin Biao at another mass rally urged Red Guards to focus on denouncing those power holders inside the party pursuing a capitalist road. So again, encouraging, Lin Biao here is encouraging these young radical students to take on the powers within the party who are said to be following this capitalist road, such as Liu Shaoqi. On the 23rd of October 1966, Liu Shaoqi and Deng Xiaoping deliver self-criticisms to the Central Committee. After this, Liu Shaoqi is really not seen in public, and he is, even though not officially yet, he is largely ousted from leadership. On the 14th of January 1967, after workers, members of the proletariat, were encouraged to join the Cultural Revolution, rebel workers overthrow the Shanghai municipal authorities, beginning the January Storm. Now, the Shanghai People's Commune is set up 3 weeks later on the 5th of February. And this really causes a stir for leadership, in which now the CCP, within Shanghai at least, largely have very little control over what's happening. It's all in the hands of the workers and Red Guards. On the 1st of April 1967, the People's Daily named Liu Shaoqi as China's biggest capitalist roader, making Liu Shaoqi's fall from grace public. On the 18th of July 1967, Liu Shaoqi and his wife Wang Guangmei are publicly denounced. Now, they'd gone through many public denunciations and struggle sessions, but Liu is stripped of his duties weeks later, and power is left in the hands largely, aside from Mao, but is left largely in the hands of Lin Biao and Mao's wife Jiang Qing. On the 31st of October 1968, Liu Shaoqi is officially stripped of his positions and expelled from the CCP. In December 1968, so after over 2 years of students having their education disrupted by the Red Guard movement, the Up to the Mountains, Down to the Countryside movement begins, with millions of young people sent to rural areas to learn from the peasants, as well as the May 7th schools beginning around the same time, in which urban cadres were sent to rural areas for re-education. On the 1st to the 24th of April 1969, the Ninth Party Congress is held. Lin Biao became vice chairman and was named Mao's successor. Also at this time, the Gang of Four were introduced to the Politburo, as in were made a part of the Politburo. On the 12th of November 1969, Liu Shaoqi, after a long period in which he was imprisoned, dies in a prison cell in Henan province. His death, however, is not made public until years later, after Mao's own death in 1976. Hang on, this isn't right. Sorry, that I forgot to get rid of this one. On the 13th of September 1971, Mao's designated successor, Lin Biao, dies in a plane crash in Mongolia. So this is after Lin Biao had been made vice chairman in 1969, and then he had a very swift fall from grace, in which he was accused of trying to overthrow Mao, but likely it was his son, Tiger, who had tried to assassinate Mao. And so as the family were trying to escape China to go to the USSR, Tiger's plane carrying the whole family crashed in Mongolia, killing everyone on board. On the 21st of February 1972, President Nixon arrives in Beijing on a diplomatic visit. A year prior to this, China had gained a seat on the UN Security Council, kicking out Taiwan. And so this, the fact that they'd gained a seat on the UN Security Council, and with President Nixon's visit to Beijing, this started to open China up to more foreign diplomacy. In August 1973 was the 10th Party Congress. It was notable for appointments of both radicals, such as the Gang of Four, to the Politburo. Apologies, I realized that I said that the 9th Party Congress is when the Gang of Four joined the Politburo. That was incorrect, so ignore me. It was actually the 10th Party Congress in 1973. It was also notable for the appointment of rehabilitated moderates such as Deng Xiaoping, who up until the early 1970s had been seen as one of the capitalist roaders that needed to be purged from the party. But at this point, Mao was more willing to appoint both radicals and moderates to the government. And so Deng Xiaoping was reintroduced to the Central Committee. On the 1st of January 1974, the Gang of Four launches the Criticize Lin Biao and Confucius campaign, expanding on Jiang Qing's post-10th Party Congress Criticize Confucius campaign. So this shows that even after his death, 3 years after his death, Lin Biao was criticized and denounced by the party. On the 8th of January 1976, Premier Zhou Enlai dies of cancer, plunging China into a period of mourning. Now, people really did mourn the death of Zhou Enlai. Some argue that they mourned Zhou Enlai's death even more than they mourned Mao's. But this was the start of 3 significant deaths of 1976. The second, I don't think I've added to this timeline, being Zhu Day in July. On the 7th of April 1976, Mao and the Politburo named Hua Guofeng, a relative unknown in the CCP, as premier and vice chairman of the party. On the 9th of September 1976, Mao Zedong suffers a severe heart attack and dies. And then on the 6th of October 1976, Hua Guofeng orders the arrest of Jiang Qing and her Gang of Four, somewhat marking the end of the Cultural Revolution. Now, 2 years later, Deng Xiaoping takes over as chairman of the party and starts China's growth as an economic superpower. So that is a chronology of the Cultural Revolution, starting with the some of the causes and lead up to the Cultural Revolution with the socialist education movement, and ending with Mao's death and the arrest of the Gang of Four. I hope you found this video interesting and useful, and I will see you next time.